Let us take a moment to reflect on the simplicity of life's transitions. I still remember the shock of losing my job. It was more than just a professional loss. It felt like losing a piece of my identity. I sat in front of the computer screen staring at the email that changed everything. The words were simple, but the weight they carried was overwhelming. It was like a sudden silence had filled the room, a silence I wasn't prepared for, and yet in that silence I realized something: this wasn't the end. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on the smallest digital moments. Text messages from old colleagues, photos of a time when everything felt right, even the briefest video calls from friends offering words of encouragement. These moments, simple as they were, began to shape my path forward. Grief from loss can often feel like an insurmountable weight, but in these digital traces I found strength, support, and the seeds of hope. In the weeks following my job loss, the world continued moving, but it felt as though I was stuck in a moment of endless pause. I would find myself scrolling through LinkedIn, seeing updates from former colleagues. Some were celebrating promotions, others were marking anniversaries at their jobs, while I was left wondering what my next step would be. The digital world, once a place of connection and achievement, now felt like a reminder of what I had lost. But then something began to shift. I started to find comfort in the smallest digital moments, receiving messages from friends who had noticed my absence from the online world. These messages weren't just polite check-ins, they were heartfelt and genuine. I realized that in the midst of this digital landscape there was still room for human connection. The photos, the messages, the stories shared through social media, they began to serve as reminders that while one chapter of my life had closed, another was waiting to begin. As the days turned into weeks, I began to find new ways to use the digital space to reconnect with myself. I had always been consumed by the hustle of my job, and the thought of having so much free time was overwhelming at first. But slowly I began to find solace in the quiet of my home. The stillness that had once felt suffocating now became a space for reflection and personal growth. One evening, while scrolling through old photos on my phone, I came across a picture from a trip I had taken years ago. It was a photo of me, standing on a mountain peak, smiling with the sun setting behind me. I had forgotten how good it felt to be in that moment, full of hope, full of possibility. I stared at that picture for what felt like hours, and in that moment I remembered who I was before the job, before the stress, before the constant pressure. It was a simple moment, captured digitally, but it became a catalyst for my transformation. I realized that the loss of my job wasn't the end of my story, it was an invitation to rediscover the person I had forgotten. The more I leaned into the digital world, the more I realized how much it could offer. I began to connect with people who were also navigating transitions in their careers. Through online forums, social media groups, and even video calls, I began to find a sense of belonging. I realized that we were all going through similar experiences: loss, change, uncertainty, but we were also finding ways to rebuild. One morning I received a message from an old colleague who had also gone through a job loss. She shared her story of how she had turned her loss into an opportunity to explore new passions and ultimately found a career that fulfilled her in ways her old job never did. Her words resonated deeply with me. It wasn't just about finding another job, it was about finding a path that truly aligned with who I was, who I wanted to become. And I realized that this digital space was where I could explore that possibility, where I could begin again. As I embarked on this journey of rediscovery, I found that digital support was more than just helpful, it was transformative. I joined webinars, followed online workshops, and started sharing my experiences on social media. The more I gave, the more I received. What began as a personal journey soon turned into a shared experience with others. People reached out, offering advice, sharing their own stories, and reminding me that I wasn't alone. It's easy to feel isolated in times of change, especially when you're navigating the unknown. But through the power of digital connection, I found a community of people who were walking similar paths, each of us supporting one another through messages, comments, and shared experiences. These small digital moments became the foundation of my healing, the anchor I needed to stay grounded as I rebuilt my life. The most profound change I experienced, however, was in the way I embraced silence. After years of constant busyness, the loss of my job forced me to confront the quiet, and at first I resisted it. I filled my days with endless scrolling, hoping to find a distraction from the stillness. But slowly, I began to understand that the silence wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. I learned to disconnect from the digital noise, the constant barrage of updates and notifications, and instead focused on the small, simple moments that brought me peace. A cup of tea, a quiet walk in nature, a conversation with a friend. These moments, though small, began to fill me with a sense of clarity and purpose that I had been missing. In the stillness, I found the strength to move forward, to rebuild my life on my own terms. Through this process of loss and reflection, I discovered 3 key strategies that helped me rebuild my life after the loss of my job. First, I embraced the power of digital connections. Instead of isolating myself, I reached out to others who had gone through similar experiences, and in doing so, I found a sense of community and support. Second, I focused on self-care, using the quiet moments to reconnect with myself, to rediscover my passions, and to find joy in the small things. And third, I learned to be patient with myself, understanding that healing takes time, and that each step forward, no matter how small, was a victory. These strategies, simple as they may seem, became the foundation of my healing. They allowed me to turn my grief and uncertainty into an opportunity for growth, and in the process, I rediscovered my purpose, my strength, and my hope. As I reflect on my journey, I realize that the loss of my job was not just a setback, it was a turning point. It was the moment I was forced to slow down, to reconnect with what truly mattered, and to embrace the unknown. The digital world, once a source of distraction, became a tool for transformation. And through this journey, I found peace, not in the end of one chapter but in the beginning of a new one. I invite you, the viewer, to reflect on your own journey of transformation. What digital moments have shaped your path? What simple acts of connection, reflection, and self-care have helped you find healing? As you continue your journey, I encourage you to embrace the silence, to reconnect with the small, meaningful moments, and to trust that each step forward is part of a larger process of healing. In the next episode, we will explore another person's journey through career transitions, focusing on how digital connections help them navigate the unknown. Stay tuned, as we continue to explore the power of the digital world in healing and transformation. Because in the midst of loss, there is always the possibility of hope, renewal, and a brighter future.